Hi everybody, Adam Steele from Hot Pole Studios here, and this is the new Evolution Wireless Digital mic from Sennheiser. Digital wireless isn't exactly new, but with the whole lockdown thing finally lifting and people going back to doing live shows, I'm sure there are a lot of singers who didn't have wireless mics before or have got some rubbish old thing that gets loads of interference, and it's time for an upgrade. In that case, this video, where Sennheiser provided this mic for me, I'm going to show you how this is much more simple than it used to be, and the results are as good as the wired version. Let's check it out. So digital wireless has been a thing for a good few years now, but it's generally been either a little bit flaky in my experience. Like I've got one of the Line 6 G30 series wireless kits, which if you go more than about 10 feet away from it, can glitch out. Or I've got the G90 system from them as well, which is significantly more expensive. Both Shure and Sennheiser have really expensive systems that you'll see at arenas and, you know, big productions, but those are the kind of thing where if you're asking how much they cost, you know that generally you don't want to know, because just thinking about the cost of them makes me want to have my eyes bleed. So Sennheiser have come along now with their Evolution Wireless Digital set, which is kind of like a middle price point between the cheaper analog UHF stuff and the super expensive. And they've done a few different sets of the packs. So there's one with a guitar pack, there's one with a mic that goes kind of like, you know, a presenter's mic for TED Talks and that kind of thing. And then there's this one, which comes with the transmitter which has an Evolution 835 capsule on top, much like this one, which is the hardware-y 835. And I will be completely honest, I've never been the biggest fan of the sound of the 835, but that's just personal preference. And what I have learned is that with these kits, what you can do is you can take off the head entirely and you can replace the capsule with something that you like the sound of more, while still having all the functionality of the transmitter and the very funky and very clever pack, the receiver here, which has of course got two antennas on the back, but you can connect different types of antennas if you've got the really fancy, like the fin type transmitters where they kind of point the receiver across a stage. So if you're in an arena or a big club, or you know, somewhere that's 2,000-3,000 capacity, where you've got 2,000 or 3,000 people who've all got their phones on, which may well start to interfere with this kind of thing, you can then do some very clever things like you can point the receiver across the stage so that there's less interference, and also you can start to look at the different channels that are available on these and use that to your advantage. One of the problems that I've had with a lot of the wireless kits that are digital in years gone by is that they've worked on the 2.4 gigahertz band, which is the same as kind of traditional Wi-Fi, which can be a major problem because what else uses the Wi-Fi band? Devices that use Wi-Fi. Sounds obvious, but every phone, every laptop, every iPad, every piece of gear that everybody's got now all uses that Wi-Fi band, and it's incredibly crowded. Now that in modern times a lot of devices that will use the 5 gigahertz band or even higher than that, because that gets them out of that 2.4 gigahertz range, but then their range is incredibly limited, so quite often those devices will fall back to the 2.4 gig band, which only has 13 channels depending on what country you're in. If you want to run 12 microphones on different channels, that's a problem. And that can get to the point where, like, I know it's anecdotal evidence, but I've found that I used to use, when I was going out live, I used one of the Behringer XR18 mixers, and I would do all the sound for the band whilst playing. But I also had a Line 6 G90 which had a 2.4 gigahertz transmission, and as soon as I turned on the pack for my bass, the transmitter receiver for the mixer would stop. Just wouldn't work. And if we were in the room with 200 or 300 or 400 people and they all got their phones out to take pictures of us, suddenly we'd find that signals would start to drop. And dropping signals is just not an option when it's a big production, when, you know, you're in the middle of a serious thing, you know, you're getting paid for the gig, or you want to make a big impression. That can't happen. Now, these don't use that band. These use what was part of the UHF band. Just looking at the side of the box here, the frequency range for these is 520 to 576 megahertz, which is way lower than the 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi band. Not only does that mean it's out of the way of the classic 2.4 gig traffic, but anyone who works in radio can tell you that lower frequencies tend to go further. Higher frequencies get absorbed by things. That's why, like, 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi, for example, really fast, really good, won't usually work through even one wall. That's the issue with different frequency ranges. So the lower you go, I mean, obviously with these, you're going to be on stage. You're not really intending to be singing through a wall. But what if you've got like a 7-foot tall big bass player and he's in between you and your receiver? If you've got a lower bandwidth, a lower frequency range, that should cut through. Or if you've got other things like amps on stage that happen to be in the way of receivers, that sort of thing sorts this out. Now, the other benefit of digital wireless compared to the old analog is that it either works or it doesn't. The sound quality is not tied to how strong the signal is. If you're not getting signal, then it's going to cut, which is why the low frequency band is great. But if you are getting signal, it should be flawless. That depends on the transceiver and the transmitter and the receiver, of course, and how good their quality is. So, today I'm going to do 2 tests. One to test the range, where we're going to go out of the front door and we're going to use this microphone. I'm going to walk a long way and see just how far I can go before it cuts out. And also, I'm going to put these 2 in front of a gentle acoustic performance from one of our friends, Sute, who's going to be playing later. Say hello. Hi. So yeah, we're going to put the the wired 835 right next to the wireless version, and we're going to have the receiver in the control room. So there's going to be 2 doors in between, and we're going to patch them through identical preamps, identical setups. Obviously, this one's going to be using the microphone input, and this one's going to be using the line level input. I think I can actually transmit mic level output out of this transceiver, so if I can, I will do that. And we'll see if there's a difference, or see if there's a noise floor. I'll boost that, and we'll see how good it sounds. I'm outside Hot Pulse Studios, and I'm currently 3 meters away from the camera, Liam's behind the camera, and now I'm just gonna see how far I can go, and we're just gonna check the audio meters and see how far I can go before it cuts out. So I'm gonna cross the road. So we've got direct line of sight. In fact, no, I don't even have line of sight. Still good? Still got an audio level. Okay, I'm gonna start going down the street. 1, 2, hello. I must be a good 50 meters away now.
Still getting level, so best make sure I don't get run over. It's actually pretty busy out here, but yeah, that's some pretty good level. And yeah, I'm like, well, like I'm halfway across an arena at this point. If I'm still getting decent sound quality, I mean, I was talking about there's no compander in these digital systems, and if this is still going and hasn't cut out yet, this is getting a bit silly. That's really impressive. Right, fantastic. Well, that proves that I can get ridiculous range on these things with no loss in sound quality at all. Back to the studio.
So that was interesting. The sound quality on these is really, really good. There might be a tiny little bit of additional noise if you really, really listen, but the fact that you're having to really, really listen means that these systems have come a long way. And like I said, the lower transmission band means that there's a lot less chance that these are going to cut out. There is an app as well, which means that if you've got several of these and they're all in different frequency bands, you can open it up, you can see which one's which, you can make sure that the right device links up with the right receiver and they're not interfering with each other and they're spread out across the transmission band, so they're not going to interfere with each other at all. And it's a nice simple one because, you know, a lot of the control for this stuff can be really complicated, and they've made it nice and simple. Simple is good. Thanks again to Sennheiser for providing this mic. I'm not getting rid of this, I'm keeping this. This is now my mic. I'm going to be performing with this, although, like I said at the start, I'm not the biggest fan of the sound of this capsule, but that's a personal preference thing. There are a lot of interchangeable capsules, and I'm going to be shopping around to see what I can put on top of this. Thanks for watching, hit the like button, share and subscribe and all the rest of the stuff. Thank you everybody, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.
Hey everyone, that might be the end of the video, but if you fancy carrying on this conversation, we have a Discord server, link is in the description. We're also on Patreon, which is something you can really help us with. We also are on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter at Hop Hole Studios. See you there.